All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 105 of the Fuel Pod. Mikey, how you doing this evening?
Doing good, doing great. Little disappointed, but I'm all right. I'm all right.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk about it. So many mixed emotions, and I really want to get to how that race went down. But let's just get some opening stuff out of the way. So, we watch the F1 race week in and week out. We see the broadcast and how the broadcast team. But I wanted to share something that was crazy. So I don't know if you knew this or not, but this was the first weekend that IndyCar did hybrid cars, uh, just like Formula One. Now they have the hybrid, same hybrid basically set up
Mhm.
as a Formula One car. And one cool thing that the broadcast team does, the ticker on well, not the ticker, but the timing table on the left side of the screen to let you know where everybody is, what place they're in, or whatnot.
Yeah.
They actually have an icon for when a car is charging their ERS. They call it something else, and using their DRS, and they also call that something else. Um, but I thought that was cool, man, and it's something that F1, that'd be cool if they put like a little DRS icon on the timing table, so we could see who's using it and who's not. You know what I mean? And when.
Well, that may be
Um,
something we see in the future in 26 when DRS goes away and they start using this other
yeah,
system.
this full hybrid system, and I don't know if they're. It's almost like I don't know if IndyCar is copying off of them, or eventually F1 will be copying off of IndyCar, but they seem to be chasing each other in propulsion technology. So it's kind of like, um, it was cool, man. Just watching that race. I mean, that race was a shit show because a lot of these, you could tell which drivers had driven Formula One cars before, because they put some of these guys that have been driving combustion engine cars their whole life, and the guys that did well were the
Uh-huh.
Christian Lungards and the Roman Grosjeans and the Marcus Ericsson and Pato Award and Alex Palou. Those guys that have been driven nothing but gas, they had a hard time, getting the give and take of a hybrid engine. So it was kind of neat to watch. The other cool thing from this weekend is we finally got a decent size teaser trailer for the movie F1 with Brad Pitt.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know what your takeaways were, but first off, two of my takeaways was the cast. It looked like Evie Plummer was the one sitting there in the diner with him when he said he needed to build the car for combat, which I thought was a cool line. And you could also tell how much time they've spent on the grid at all these races because that was real life footage. I noticed Monza on there and Silverstone on there. But Javier Bardem is in there, and I love him and everything he's in. He was most recently, obviously, in Dune. He's famous for No Country for Old Men, obviously. He was in Skyfall. He was great in that. And Tobias Menzies, who plays in the James Bond movies, he played in The Crown. He's also in there. But dude, it looks like a really good movie. I don't know what your thoughts were. You said you saw the trailer.
Yeah, here's what I'm excited about is the way it was filmed. So we just got through watching Le Mans, the Steve
Yeah,
McQueen. We watched that, what, a month ago,
yeah,
and watching the way that was filmed on the track in a race in racing situations. And they've kind of done the same thing for this movie. They've had cameras on certain cars where they can just digitally, just change the logos out for what they need to do. I seen
yeah,
today where Gasly's car was one of the ones that they used, but they've been working on this for 2 years, filming this stuff. You've seen them before, taking the formation lap along with the actual
yeah.
Formula One driver. And I think the footage, I think the way it's filmed, I think it's going to be outstanding.
Yeah, I do too. And you could tell they took some definite cues from Top Gun Maverick because I know that they were in F2 cars for some of their own driving, but it looked like they might have been in some two seaters, much like Cruise and that crew was in Top Gun, where they were in the back seat actually and not in the pilot seat.
Yeah, and
So it'll be
here's
interesting to
something
see how they
else.
did.
Something else I love is I I'm not a CGI fan.
Yeah, me neither.
And these guys have remotely crashed some of these cars. to film crashes for this film,
Yeah.
and that is going to be amazing to watch.
Well, I really loved all the real life integration that they used. And like you saw Gunther Steiner in one of the scenes lean back off of the strat wall there and like give his little unspoken 2 cents on whatever was going on during that scene. And I saw it felt like we were in the cockpit with Mercedes at some point because I saw the Hilfiger logo on there. And I know Lewis Hamilton's like one of the technical advisors on the film. So, and smartly, that was a smart move bringing him in. Hopefully, they worked with.
Well, you saw a picture
older
of the drivers lined up by the track, and
Yeah,
holy crap, there's Max Verstappen. He's in the movie. Oh, there's Alonso next to him.
yeah, and I think it'd be stupid for them not to use guys like Hamilton, Alonso, even getting some of the guys that retired recently, Jenson Button and those guys, because Brad Pitt's playing an aged, brought out retirement driver, brought in to coach this young kid. But Brad Pitt needs to know what it's like to be older and in that car. And I don't think anybody can tell him better than probably. I mean, I'm sure Hamilton's and Alonso's aches and pains are way different than a George Russell or Lando Norris. I mean, I could see it in Hamilton's legs this Sunday when he got out of the car and he tried to take off running for his team. He was bow-legged as whatever. Who was Popeye's wife?
Olive oil.
Swimming with bow-legged women. Oh God, man. So anyway, man, I thought that was cool. But you also got a piece of news that ties us into F1 this weekend.
Yeah, so we're off for a week. So you think there's not going to be any Formula One racing, but guess what? Some of these drivers aren't taking the week off. They're going to Goodwood for the Festival of Speed. And to me, man, you introduced me to this a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I'm so glad I did. I
love this thing.
Yeah.
I love the Goodwood Festival of Speed. Yes, Chad, I love a Goodwood. It's like if you had the ultimate Hot Wheel collection as a kid, right?
Yes. It's
like having the ultimate Hot Wheel collection and getting to see these things run.
I was thinking about we used to have this huge porch when I was growing up, and we lived downtown in Huntington, West Virginia, but it was a typical South Side porch, and you'd have 5 or 6 kids come over with their Hot Wheels collection, and you'd just have these things strewn out all over the porch, and to me, the Festival of Speed is the adult version of that. It's everybody going, hey, look at my car. Watch me almost wreck my $20 million unicorn car.
Absolutely. And the stories behind some of these older cars, first thing that comes to mind was the Beast of Turin.
Yeah.
The car set the land speed record. And this thing, nowadays it's like it's putting up the hill.
Yeah.
It's got flames blowing out the side. It's still a badass car. But the fact that they took this engine out to put it in an airplane for the war.
Yeah.
Just that story behind some of these old cars is incredible. And, before they run up the hill, they'll tell a little bit about each car, and then you get to see them go. And it's man, I love it. It's the ultimate car show, man.
I like the races, but I love when they do the manufacturer parades, and even if it's Mini Cooper, dude, because there's a huge history there with John Cooper Works and telling that story, and then everybody starts rolling out their Porsches, and then it's hill climbs, and it's rally cars, and and man, let us in on some of the big names that are going to be there this week. I know
the headliner this year is Max Verstappen. Imagine that. World champion, making his Festival of Speed debut. But the whole the entire Red Bull family will be driving something, one of their cars, one of their older models, whatever. But Checo's going to try to get up the hill. Danny's going to be there. Yuki's going to be driving. Alonso is going to be driving an Aston Martin. What was that?
Bro, the Valiant.
Yes.
So do you mind if I interrupt you just for a second?
Go for it. Yeah.
if you're a huge fan of Aston Martin, and you can name more Aston Martins than just the DB3 or 5 from the James Bond movies, or the Vantage or the Vanquish, there was a car that was made in the 70s that favored the Mustang because they wanted to be like that European American muscle almost. And it was the Vantage, and it was between 73 and 75. Now the 75 Vantage, they only made 3,500 of those. And as soon as I saw this Valiant, I thought, bro, that has that front end from that 70s model Vantage. Then I'm reading the description, and they're like, yeah, we based the entire musculature of the car off of that. So I thought that was super. That car is so hot, man. It looks so good. So anyway, that's all I had. I love it that Alonso's getting to drive it.
Williams is bringing the Williams family will be driving, some of the old Williams cars, old Albon Sargent will try to make it up the hill with Checo, and James Vowles, I think he's going to drive something. Even Leah Block, the F1 Academy driver, will be driving.
That's
and
exciting.
Of course, McLaren will have some Senna cars there. Mika Hakkinen.
Yeah.
Damon Hill, Emerson Fittipaldi. All these guys are going to be there. And of course, they've got rally cars with some, rally guys. Seb Ogier, Rovanpera will both be driving. It's the ultimate car show, man. I definitely recommend checking it out.
Yeah, folks, if you're one of the people that doesn't live in this country and you happen to live across the pond, you can get in for 70 pounds. I don't know what that going exchange rate is on that American, but I'm sure in American that would be well over $100. But still, dude, for a weekend of that, man, I'm just telling you, I'd love to go. But man, we've got a lot to talk about tonight.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah, hey, I think.
I'll
give you a link. They have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, let me hold on just a second.
It's where I'll be checking it out. If you got that link, if you could throw that up.
Let me throw that up there. Where'd that go? There it is. All right.
Yeah, this will start Thursday, I believe.
Yeah, so this is the YouTube channel for Goodwood, scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So make sure to give it a go. You're going to get hooked on it. If you're one of those people that pulls up like track days at the Nordschleife at Nürburgring, you're going to love this page because it's not as fast as the Nürburgring, but it's certainly more stylish. So that being said, man, we've got to talk about one of the crowning races of the F1 season, which is the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. It did not disappoint, and yet at the same time, I was entirely disappointed. I know that makes no sense, but yeah, it certainly was a weird race. But I wanted to start with quali. First off, we had the craziest, 1-2 punch. I mean, it was crazy. We got a 3 Brit driver starting grid. We had Mercedes with a front row lockout for the first time in God knows how long. I thought it was going to be Hamilton. Russell came through at the last second and took it, and Lando in third. It was kind of a weird quali. We had some rain. We didn't have some rain. It was, it was one of those. The weather all weekend was, I don't know. You think challenging is a good word? It was challenging weather.
Yeah, mega challenging.
I don't think any one session
was a guessing game. It was no, not at all.
Even during the session.
Even the practice sessions had multiple conditions.
Yeah, what was crazy is like even one session didn't have the same weather throughout. Like you didn't have an entirely dry session or an entirely wet session. Impossible to plan for. I'm sure if you were one of the strategists, like that new lady they have on F1 TV, who I think needs some definite work in the broadcasting department. But Ruth Buscom, I think is her name. She used to be a race strategist for Alfa Romeo. She knows her stuff, obviously. But yeah, I'm sure it is absolute fun for those guys. They probably do more work on weekends like we just had than they do on a fully dry, sunny, nice weather weekend. So,
yeah.
But anyway, let's get into the race. I've I've highlighted some stuff I really wanted to, and of course, break in at any point and interject your own stuff. But I kind of wanted to start out the back and work my way up because most of our disappointments, well, I guess you could say that about anything really, were at the back. But my first one was Pierre Gasly. You know, so Gasly didn't even. I don't think he finished the formation lap. Later, it was reported that he only signed up for the formation lap. What killed me the most about this is the guy goes into the race with a 51 grid penalty, which realistically you can't even do because there's only 20 cars on the grid. But he changed out like every single part on the car multiple times. And then he gets out on the formation lap and blows the very component that he changed out twice to get those grid penalties. So part of me was thinking that he was just like, you know what? I just need a day off. Unfortunately, it was I picked him up on my fantasy team, so we'll get to that later. So the very week I pick him up, he goes DNF on the formation lap. Thank you, Pierre. Appreciate that. Incredible minus 20 points. So, yeah, that was terrible. And, of course, Alpine left with Esteban Ocamp for the entirety of the race. And, you know, he didn't really do that great either, coming in P16. No. I don't know what was, although honestly,
I don't know, you know,
I don't care. I really don't. I honest to God just don't care. My next person that I absolutely don't care about, because I'm still wondering why we're still talking about this guy driving a car. And no, Mikey, it's not Daniel Ricciardo. It's Sergio Perez. The guy gets a contract extension, and he pays Red Bull back for the happiness of that contract extension with doing about as shitty as any one driver can do in
over and over
the two races after the contract extension. Dude, I don't know if he actually could have done worse. I mean, I honest to God don't know if he could have done worse. I mean, he was outperformed, and I'm just going to name a few names that never should have all 16 people in front of him, 15 people in front of him shouldn't have outperformed him. But definitely Logan Sargent's in there. You know, there's, you know, I don't know what else to say about this guy. They need to move him to a different team. I think he should be an usher at the Red Bull corporate headquarters.
And you said you don't care, right? I don't think Checo cares. And here's the deal. He's been called out all week long, right? For weeks, he's been called out. And then earlier in the week, they were saying, we're going to send you to Cash App and bring in somebody else for your seat, right? So the media is talking. I'm going to give Danny Ricciardo some credit here. He got called out in Canada. He straightened his ass up.
Yeah.
Logan Sargent earlier in this week, James Vowles saying, we're going to kick him out mid-season, P11.
Yeah.
If you get called out, everyone but Checo, when they get called out or threatened, hey, they step it up a little bit. Checo don't care. He's like, it seems like he doesn't care.
This is what kills me the most. And Chad and I were talking about this for probably a couple days. And I know not everybody that's involved with this show has been following it for as long as we have, but I get that. But so there's a clause where they can get rid of him. And you're going to laugh, but I feel like the most sensible move is Daniel Ricciardo. And I know you disagree with me, but let me plead my case. That Red Bull car is the most maneuverable car on the grid, corner-wise. That's why Lando could not complete those moves at Austria. That car can turn on a dime. It can jig on a dime, to borrow the American parlance. But Danny grew up on that car. And he's been trying to get back there ever since he left. And ever since he left, he's never had a car that can do that. That McLaren is built for speed. That Renault was built for speed. Even that Visa, Cash App, whatever the fuck, is built to go flat out. Danny doesn't race like that. Danny's a late plunge, turn on a dime, get back in the throttle. And he makes the absolute most sense to bring in to back up Max for the rest of the season. At the very least, he would be top 5 the rest of the season. I know that. And I'm telling you, but will they do it? I don't know. Is the option there? Yes, it is. Which, by the way, that would also pave the road to bring Liam Lawson into VCARB, because I think Red Bull is done bringing a rookie driver straight to the main Red Bull team. It failed with Albon. It failed with Gasly. I think they want to get Liam Lawson in that VCARB seat for a while, let him cut some teeth on that, and then maybe pull him up. And I'm not saying Danny's a long-term decision, but at the very least, finishing out the rest of this season and part of next year, maybe. Who knows? But I think we would see shocking performance from him in that Red Bull car. In fact, it was last year at Silverstone where he tested the Red Bull car and would have been on the front row for the race. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about Checo, which technically we talked about Danny probably more than we did Checo there, and that's how little I care about what's going on with Checo right now. So we can move on to a driver for my favorite team who got absolutely bent over this weekend. Charles Leclerc. Buddy, I'm going to give it to you. This weekend it wasn't on you. I'm just going to throw this up there real quick because this is hilarious. But so we have a race where we know it's going to rain in 16 minutes. That's 16 minutes. At Silverstone, that's 12 laps, 11 laps. Hey, let's go ahead and bring in Leclerc and put him on intermediate tires while it's still dry. I don't know what in the actual F they were thinking, but he's out there just melting those intermediate tires right about the time that the rain hits. And now his tires are ruined. Everybody else comes in, gets in inners on. He waits till another lap. He puts on inners again, and it's dry when he gets back out on the track. He should have went ahead and crossed over. Everybody else was coming in, and they put him on inners when everybody else is going back to slicks. So he was like 47 laps down. I don't know what else to say, man. Ferrari has problems figuring out what tires are.
Here's the thing. And I'll get in more with this when we talk McLaren.
I'm going to get into it with McLaren too.
You know, because Leclerc started P11, right?
Yeah.
He was back in the midfield.
Yeah.
If it would have dumped rain before anybody else, yeah, he would have
looked like a hero.
He would have looked like a hero.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a bad decision. It was the wrong decision.
Yes. Yeah, it was like football, man. You know, do you go for it on 4th and 2 from the opponent's 10-yard line, you know? And if you get it, then yeah, you look like a hero and it's 1st and goal. But if you don't, you've turned the ball over with less than a minute to play, and everybody loses their job the next day in the paper. You know, but these races, you just can't do it. I mean, when you're talking about the swing on points right now, Ferrari can't afford to make these kind of mistakes. And I hate it, but the media is right now. It's like they won Monaco and then they've just decided to take the rest of the year off from their brains.
Yeah, that's what I had wrote down in my notes. With Leclerc, he sold his soul for Monaco.
Yeah, and hey, listen,
he won Monaco and he's had nothing but bad luck since.
Yeah, and if that's what you want to do, hey, buddy, you know, more power to you. That's on you. The rest of us would like to see you guys finish out the season strong. And, you know, now they're losing ground to Mercedes, and it's going to take some work. I know they're going to bring an upgrade package for Monza, and I think they're holding off for the summer break. But we're talking about
when we get into
we're talking about 2 more races.
When we get into more road courses, street courses, and the slower speed corners, you're going to see Ferrari make a charge.
Yeah.
You know, when we roll into Singapore, you're going to see them up front.
But as much as I love Sainz, it needs to be Leclerc making that march. Because
absolutely.
Because Leclerc's still going to be a Ferrari driver next year. And you're bringing in Lewis Hamilton, and I don't know how Lewis Hamilton felt at the end of that race. about his move to Ferrari. I know he's going there for how iconic it is and all that stuff. And I was telling Chad today too, because we were talking about this, because he brought it up about Hamilton, and I was like, that car is still lightning quick. The problem right now is they're reverting back to a previous state of, we don't know what we're doing. Their upgrade package that they brought this weekend made the car worse. So they're going to end up reverting back to pre-Silverstone for that. And then on top of that, they got it.
Yeah.
Leclerc's one of those guys, once he gets down in the dumps, he's down in the dumps. They got to dig him out. And it's just not going to do him any good with Sainz coming in P4, which I was happy for Carlos. He did great. No. Everybody knows how I feel about as far as where I think Carlos is on that team. But, yeah, he did fine all day, and nobody really said a word about it. Just quietly running in fourth all day because there was just too much other stuff going at the front. But some things I want to go through quick. Logan Sargent got points this week, or not scored points, but he scored points fantasy-wise. But, came in P11, man. Finished the race P11, almost into points.
Yeah.
Which for him is about the same as a win. Well, I mean, he wasn't a DNF.
It was a win when he made Q2.
Yeah.
When he made Q2, that was a win.
He was probably walking around.
He was called out.
I'm sort of a big deal. But yeah, man, but he's been called out now for a year and a half. So, and I guess he's got his IndyCar seat, so he's probably not as stressed out. But he did want to stay in Formula One, so that sucks. Alex Albon also did well. Coming in P9. So, Williams in the top 10 is a good sign for Formula One, I think. They're trying to get the glory days back.
Skipped right over Yuki.
I did. Well, I mean, he was kind of a non-issue. I'm talking about guys that
were non-issue, but he was in the points.
I'm talking about guys that
if Danny would have outdone Yuki, you would have made sure to make a point of it.
I'm talking about guys that either performed better than they normally do, or guys that should have been at the front but ended up at the back. Yuki and Danny, both, I felt like both of them should have done better than they did. Danny outperforming Yuki is Danny doing what nobody thought he would do. Yuki was right where he normally is, 10 or 11.
Exactly.
Classic
exactly
Yuki.
Where he normally is.
Yeah. So Aston Martin, it was funny, and Aston Martin's my second team without a doubt. But all the broadcast people this weekend, all the networks, Aston looked good this weekend. So here's my question though: did they look good, or was everyone else just shit? Because to me, it felt more like everyone else was just shit, and Aston Martin benefited from that. For whatever, except for Mercedes and Red Bull. But it felt to me more like everyone else was just shit, and Aston Martin just kind of stayed where they were, and it made them look good. I do like it that they both finished next to each other. I do like it as much as I love Alonso. I like seeing Lance Stroll outperforming because, again,
contributing.
That's what Aston Martin needs to happen. They need Lance Stroll out there. That's why Alonso was brought in to make Stroll better, and he just obviously has failed at that, which is unfortunate. But the other one is Nico Hülkenberg, dude. What can we say about Hülkenberg this weekend? I mean, it's just every week he adds a little bit of oomph.
Yeah.
Every week, just a little bit more oomph. Was P6 pretty much the entire weekend, consistently.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks in a row at P6. He's that guy that's like, you see the same colors, on the screen. You see the same car, same thing. What the hell's that? Haas up there?
Yeah.
He's that guy that breaks the Haas mold.
Yeah, he does. And, and I love K-Mag. I think everybody does. He's just a good dude. But, man, you see a Haas up towards the front, you don't even need to see the number on the car. You know it's Nico Hülkenberg. Plus, Hülkenberg loves bad weather. He's just notoriously good in wet weather. But, man, he drove the wheels off of that second Ferrari this weekend, proving again that Ferrari power unit has what it takes if the team has what it takes. So I'm happy for him, man. He did a great job. We already talked about Carlos Sainz. I'm not going to say any more on it. I mean, he came in. I guess he finished P5. I thought he was 4th. Maybe because the team we're going to talk about next had a weird day. But McLaren, I'm not even going to separate their drivers out. And there's a reason. You probably will. And that's fine. But this was a day. You're not going to like this ticker right here. This was a day where I felt like McLaren hosed the driver that was doing better. They should have double stacked those McLarens like everybody else did when they brought him into pit, and they left. Who'd they leave out? Lando?
Oscar.
Yeah, they leave Oscar out. And that was his day right there. That was the end. They left him out. He comes in on the next lap, it's too late after that. Everybody's gone. And he was 0.4 faster than Lando on the day.
Yeah.
If you average the whole day.
Yeah.
And I get it. It was the British Grand Prix, and they wanted to give their British driver a chance to win the British Grand Prix. But, you know, what happened to racing to put the fastest guy up there? So I felt like Oscar got hosed pretty bad. In fact, he probably got hosed more than anybody else other than Leclerc. I mean, him and Leclerc probably pretty close to how bad they got hosed with their pants on. So I don't know what your thoughts were.
All right. So there was 2 incidents, right? So I'll go through them. And the same thing that I said about Charles Leclerc.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad call. It was the wrong call. Let's start with Oscar, right? Everybody's going to inners.
Right.
They're going to lose 5 seconds if they double, right? We just saw what happened to Leclerc. If we're going to get screwed by going out on inners and everybody's getting screwed, well, Oscar's going to be a minute and a half ahead of everybody. You don't know until you do it, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't a bad call. It was the wrong call.
And it was one of those few times where I think, though, that they should have waited to see what the other teams did and then be like, listen, if everybody's double stacking, then we're going to double stack. If everybody's bringing in their number 1 driver and leaving their number 2 out, then that's what we'll do. And they had time to make that call.
That's the bad thing when you have your driver running 1, 2, 1, 3, I think at the time, and they're up front. They don't have that luxury of seeing what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can do what everybody else does is lean outside the garage and see
now
who's
sitting and watching. I was, saying, they ought to back Oscar up a little bit so they can double stack. To me, I thought, but I could see what they were thinking. Look, Leclerc, if Oscar can get one good lap, he's going to be in the lead.
Yeah.
So anyway,
and he still had a good race.
Now we'll talk about we'll talk about Lando.
Go for it.
Everybody keeps saying that McLaren threw the race away. Once again, it wasn't a bad decision. It was the wrong decision. They bring him in. He's got a set of brand new mediums. He should go out in front of Lewis, but it's wet and he slides in. Max just took hards, right? So you've got coming into the pit, the guy behind you has brand new softs. The guy behind him has brand new hards. You have 13 laps left to go. What are you choosing? I'm like, shit, I can't hold off them softs behind me. Normally, 99% of the time, give me those softs. I'm fixing to lay down some qualifying laps.
Right.
There ain't but 13 laps left to go. So that's why I say it wasn't a bad decision. It was the wrong one.
And, man, that's a fairly good point because those two aren't mutually exclusive.
And, we can look at it now. Say, it was totally wrong. It's shitty and all this.
Yeah.
But it's, it's like Max Verstappen said, if my mom had a boss, she'd be my dad. It's racing.
Yeah.
You can what if all day.
Yeah, you're right. You certainly are right. Well, man, let's move on to a guy that had probably the second best day of anyone else at Silverstone. And that's good old Max Verstappen, the Dutch Lion.
Second best day
So here's a
that
guy.
shouldn't have.
Yep, you're right. So he comes into this race on the back foot because he had a horrible qualifying where he blew his floor apart and still had a decent qualifying lap, which was faster than most people. So he comes into the race. He's on what? Is he on the third row? Yeah, I think he was third row. Let me pull up qualifying again, but I'm pretty sure he was third row.
I got you. Before second row.
Yeah, second row. So he's right there next to Lando, which I'm sure the media was going nuts. We're like, oh, sweet, we're starting this race with Lando next to Max. Of course, nothing ended up happening. They had a pretty clean front lap there, but Max just ran his race, and there were times when he was down, there were times when he was up, but man, he was up when he needed to be, chasing down Lando because of wrong decisions on McLaren's part, chasing him down and catching him and passing him. And I got to tell you, if he'd have had 2 more laps, we'd have had Abu Dhabi 2021 all over again. I was already on my feet for that last 2 laps.
For sure.
Because I'm going to tell you something right now that I can't believe I'm admitting. I was rooting for Hamilton once Hamilton got in the front. And it had nothing to do with Mercedes, and it had nothing to do with Hamilton being Hamilton. It had everything to do with a few things. I'm going to tell you what they are. One, he's one of the oldest guys on the grid, and I'm an old guy. And I thought, man, this is great. And 2, he is the GOAT. I don't care how many Max has won so far. He's still not even close to where Lewis is. And because no driver in Formula One has ever won a race after their 300th Grand Prix. And I think he's on like 340 or something. And a 2.5 year drought without a win. And he gets that win. And here's the thing. He got that win fair and square, man. There was nothing about that race that was not like where there's an asterisk beside it. Where 7 drivers wrecked out in turn 1, and that's how Lewis won it. He won that thing fair and square, and he won it well, man, and super classy. Almost brought a tear to my eye there at the end. He was hugging his dad, and you could just see the emotion, welling up inside him, and it was super cool, man. What a great day for his fan base, which I'm not a member of. But what a great day for his fan base and for his legacy. And so I was super happy that he won that race, man. I don't know what your thoughts were. But...
Absolutely. I loved it. Even leading up to it, I wanted him to win.
Yeah.
I'll take P2, P3, whatever. Let him get one. He's still got it.
Yeah.
I think we'll see more of it, more competitiveness from him. And, when it comes to Mercedes, out of the 2, I'd much rather have him win a race than the other guy.
Which is funny because the last person we're going to talk about is George Russell. So here's a guy. It sounds like John Madden. So here's a guy that can't compete with Brett Favre. So George Russell comes into this weekend. Practice didn't look that great for Mercedes. I don't know if you got to see any of the practice, but they were midfield car in practice. And they were even playing down their hopes when they were interviewed after practice. Yeah, we don't know if we're going to be there this weekend, if we got the speed. It might have all been a Toto ruse. I can see him playing that game. Yeah. But they get out in qualifying. They drive the tits off those cars, and they end up 1-2. Front row lockout for Mercedes. George Russell on pole. Race starts out. George Russell gets a super good jump off the start finish. He's in the lead. He loses the lead later. There was some kind of weird, I don't know if he went off the road or what happened, but it ended up getting to be a McLaren Mercedes, hodgepodge of cars up there at the front. And, George gets back in the lead later. And then all of a sudden we see the telltale message pop up on the screen. Mercedes AMG, George, retire the car. And if you were like me, I'm sitting there going, wait, what?
Yeah, I think everybody was.
You're winning. What are we doing? George, retire the car. And nothing from George. I'm sure he was bawling his eyes out in the car. Like, what? I'm up front. But
it caught everybody off guard. Even the commentators on TV were like, "Is that right? Retire the car."
Are they talking to the right guy? Do we have the right audio board up here? What's going on? Really weird, man. And I didn't even read about it today as far as what ended up happening. I'm guessing it was a gearbox issue where they were losing power or something. It had to be something. You don't retire from P1, but he did. And that might have been a stat right there, or a record or something. But obviously day ruined. I do like the fact that one of the first people to come to Lewis's car was George Russell. And I mean, sure, you could say George Russell did that for George Russell, but it still looked pretty sporty to come over and like he shook his hand and then he like patted him on the helmet. And, obviously that was an incredible win for Mercedes, regardless of what happened to Russell. But I don't know what else you can say about it, man. That was really cool.
Yeah, I thought, of course, Russell's got to be happy just looking at Mercedes on top and hopeful for the what's coming up.
Yeah.
We're not mid pack anymore.
Yeah. No, they're not, man. They're the third.
It's not those three horses running away from us. We're back in there.
Yeah. It's I think they're legitimately the third fastest team on the grid. They're the second fastest team. Red Bull only has one driver, so they're technically not a team. So there's Max and then McLaren and then Mercedes. So and man, Christian Horner, I don't know if you watched any of his interviews at all this weekend, but you can just tell, man, I think he's done defending Checo. He's like, right now we're a team with one driver. We've got to get him up there.
I'm calling it how it is,
Well, it's not sustainable. There's no way they can win the Constructors' Championship with one car. I mean, we'd have to, in order for that to happen, Max would have to win the majority of the races, and all the other teams would have to trade off on 2, 3, 4 every week. I have to be Mercedes one week, McLaren one
which
week,
Max
Ferrari.
has for the last 2 years, and
correct,
it's worked out.
Yeah,
But guess what? Different game.
Yeah,
we're gonna need you.
Yeah, there's not going to be any. I mean, this one might go down literally to like 2021 and go down to Abu Dhabi, and it might be between 2 or 3 teams.
Yeah,
instead of just 2 teams. So I'm looking forward to it. It might be on your feet only watching that final race of the season until the last lap. Just stressed out and sweating bullets, hoping your guy gets it. But anyway,
that would be great. Remember the first of the year, I predicted Abu Dhabi to be the most boring because everything would be settled. It may turn out to be the most exciting race of the year.
Yeah, it very well may. So we've got Hungary coming up on 19 July. So not this weekend, but the following weekend. Hungary, man, it's another track we could see rain. In fact, we're in that stretch where pretty much the next few tracks we could see rain because Spa is after this one. And we know we'll see rain at Spa. But 19 through 21 July, absolutely technical course. Overtakes are difficult to do. Turn 1 crash outs are a thing at Hungary. So it could get ugly there, man, really fast. But so anyway, yeah, 21 July. So 21 July, the race will be 8:00 in the morning again. Yay! Not a sprint weekend, so thank God. I'm not a big fan of the sprint race. I thought I would be, but I'm just not. I think it messes up the whole weekend. Anyway, man, that's all I got. Unless you got anything from the F1 Academy?
Nope, that's all I've got.
I will say NASCAR raced in Chicago this past weekend in the rain. I think for the first time ever, and they made it about 50 feet before the first people decided, nope, no, I don't think we should do this.
Yeah, that's
I saw
their
Kyle
second
Larson.
time.
Yeah,
Second
I saw
time
Kyle
trying to
Larson
race
just go
in the
straight
rain.
wall. Yeah, I'm like,
And
Kyle,
Chicago,
there's a left turn there. There's a left turn there.
and those big boxy cars that don't turn in the streets like that, and every corner is blind. It was, yeah.
Still a fun race, man. It
Even
looked like a fun
I don't know,
race.
even the visual wasn't the visual of that big honking wiper.
Yeah. You talk about when they showed like the nose cam and you could see the big
Like the
wiper
onboard
sticking out.
camera, yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was like,
Yeah.
man, is that debris that blew up on his car? But no, it was the wiper. I don't know, man. I think they still got a few years to catch up on the inclement weather plan. But
Yeah, for sure.
because the spray on those cars has got to be just disastrous. I mean, it's bad on F1 cars, but I mean, on those cars, at least they got wipers and windows. You can't really do much about it in
Yeah.
an F1 car. You got the tear off.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they spray every tear off down with Rain-X though, so it's like whoosh, 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 ripping them things off. But guys, that's all I've got. I hope if you do get to watch this week, thank you very much. We appreciate it. But we will be back for the Hungarian Grand Prix preview next week. So,
Yeah,
Mikey, you got anything else?
Just don't forget to check out the Goodwood Festival Speed this weekend. Starts Thursday through Sunday. There's going to be something there that catches your eye, I promise.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we've got the link to the Goodwood YouTube channel, so go check it out. It'll definitely help you get inspired into going to that website and checking out those races because it is a good time. Guys, that's all we got. I'm at JNeil729. This is at 2Diddy4. Hit us up on, I don't know if we got to call it X. Hit us up on X at those handles, and we will catch you next week. Thank y'all.
Thank you.